So it depends on your personality. And you know what? I kept doing stuff like that, but I just got better politically at broadcasting my intentions, not necessarily seeking permission, but broadcasting my intentions. And that's a version of courageousness. It's a ask for forgiveness later mentality. As long as you're not breaking the law and it's not unethical and you're following your own moral compass and you know it's good for the company and the brand and the associates and the customers, have the courage to do it regardless. And if somebody comes down on you saying you shouldn't have done that, that's bad, then maybe you shouldn't work there. How's that for honesty? Because corporations need more personality in them. Particularly in today's day and age when corporations don't necessarily have the best reputation for a million reasons. People with a little color in their personality and a little, pep in their step and like going to work and helping customers and coworkers be better. Bring your authentic self into those big places. Maybe you won't be the bright shining spotlight you would in a smaller company, but someone's going to see it. And if you can lay your head down on the pillow at the end of the night because you accomplished something where others didn't think the big machine would move the way you wanted, sometimes 1 degree of course correction's a lot in a big company. Smaller company, more onus and responsibility. I compare it to throwing a rock in a pond versus a rock in the ocean. If you throw a rock into a pond, your wake goes out further. The ripples of the wave from the rock hitting. You throw a rock in the ocean, it does this. Big company, small company. So if you're not comfortable heaving your ideas or your rocks into that small pond and really affecting all sides of the pond, because you will in decision making at every level of a company like we're at now, everybody could impact its success and failure by the minute. And some people are like, oh, I don't like that. Okay. Know that about yourself. So anyway, my commentary is around ingenuity and courageousness as it relates to how you want your career to go and the decisions you make. And you know what? If you try it out, at least you know. At least you know. And then you can say, hey, I tried it. My last comment, and then you can take it, Rachel, and bring us home. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. And there's a million videos on YouTube. You don't need to listen to us. I mean, Derek Jeter, I think he was at the University of Michigan this past week talking about how many times he failed. And I'm a Yankees fan. I even keep my Yankee jersey on my chair, everybody. So I'm a big Jeter guy. And he was saying, look at the guys in the Hall of Fame. They got it right 3 out of 10 times. And that's a Hall of Fame career. 300 batting average. That means you missed 7 times or flew out or whatever. I mean, that's a heck of a way to live. And there's a million of those stories. Admiral Craven, a SEAL, when he was at the University of Texas, his commencement speech from the University of Texas, I want to say it was 15 years ago, is probably one of the best commencement speeches I've ever heard. And and for the producers, if you guys can find it or I'll send it to you, you should put it in the link and just listen to take the chance. Don't be the guy standing on the sideline watching or the girl on the sideline watching. Get in the game. Big company, small company, put yourself out there. If someone doesn't like it, that probably means you're doing the right thing, by the way. It's usually where the noise comes from. So anyway, enjoy your careers and pick your poison and enjoy it.
Thank you for painting such vivid pictures of the transition in both directions. It really, I think you gave people some things to think about, right, in different ways that maybe they haven't considered. It's funny, as you were talking about mistakes, right, that people make. So when I went from small company to big company, I didn't necessarily know all the rules of how to behave in corporate America. And, when you work for such a giant ship, right, it's really a machine. There are these unwritten social norms, right, on, how to do things and the right things to do things and who's allowed to speak up. And if you need approval for something, who you need to ask. And I've always been a person who was never intimidated by people's titles, right? I believe everyone puts their pants on the same way in the morning. And if you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer.
For people watching, I know
it's people watching in trouble a little bit.
Because I know some people choose audio only and some people like to see us. So I've actually had people say that. I'd rather watch you two. You have a good dynamic. Anyway, I laughed. I wasn't laughing at her when she said that, everybody. She will just walk in the door. Everyone knows where Rachel stands, which is probably why we get along so well. So anyway, yes.
Well, and I've, as recently as 10 years ago, I've sat in front of some, senior generals and admirals in the U.S. military and told them what I think about, how they should better prepare veterans.
I'm sure they appreciated that.
The civilian workforce. I just, again,
Yeah.
well, they're people, right? People are people, and you're not, just because you have a more important
That's right.
title, that doesn't mean that, I shouldn't share. So that's gotten me in trouble at certain points. But one example is when I moved to a bigger company from a smaller company, I was on a call and I was invited to join. I don't remember what it was. It was like evaluating a new background check vendor kind of situation, something similar. And there were more people who were senior than I on this call. And I don't know, we were going back and forth on, the project and what we needed. And there was a time when the vendor or the people that were presenting it asked a question, and it got really awkward because all the important people who were supposed to know everything on the call weren't answering the questions, probably because they weren't close enough to the work. And it was like this awkward silence. And I knew the answer because this was something that I did in my job. And I just spoke up and gave the answer. And I got summoned into a senior leader's office afterwards. And they said, Rachel, that was very forward of you. We don't expect someone with your title to speak up before the director or the senior director or whoever it was. I just looked at them like, what do you mean? Like, we were trying to accomplish something for the company, and somebody asked a question, and I knew the answer, and nobody else knew the answer. I don't expect a whole parade for being the one who knew the answer. I was just trying to be helpful. Because otherwise you would have this call where nobody's speaking. And then what happens next? And so I got this lecture on how to navigate environments and how to show respect for authority and people's titles. And I walked out of there and I was really confused and part of it was naivete, right? Not having experienced the egos and the power dynamics of what happens in some big companies. But I was really sort of like, it seems like a waste of time. And ultimately, this project is going to take 10 times longer if we play games. Like, it felt like games to me. And I didn't like it. But I've just stepped into those kinds of things before. I've gotten a reputation.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see the look
and
of your
JT
face during that conversation.
Oh, gosh, right? I know. And another story. So I was actually, when I won't mention the name of the company, but when I moved on. So sometimes when you leave a company, all of a sudden you realize how much everyone appreciates you, right? You get all these messages like, wow, we're so sad to lose you.
That should be an episode by itself.
You're right. Let's add it to the list. And it's like, we should tell people how we appreciate them when they still work here. But anyway, one of the comments that my boss got about me when I was leaving this company, and she told it to me laughing, was, Rachel was always very forward for someone at her level. Most people didn't speak up the way she did. And I'm like, thanks. So
right.
I don't think she actually meant it as a compliment. But
some of that's go ahead. Sorry.
So
I was going to say some of that's generational. Like, I remember I sent an email to some bosses, and I didn't have them in order of their rank in the to part of the email.
Oh,
because I didn't care. It was just there they are.
Yeah.
And my boss called me in and said that wasn't politically right. I'm like, what? This was like 1997. So back, I was like 26 years old or whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, this person was the president. This person's the senior vice president. And I'm like, what? So it's a little similar, right? Yeah.
Right. I know. People are people. So part of it is also personality, right? You called yourself a maverick.
No, I was called that.
Referred to as a renegade, right? It's kind of, yes. But I think it's a compliment, right? Mm-hmm. So I was referred to as a renegade sometimes, right? And it means that we don't accept the status quo, that we're always looking for a way around it, a way to do things better, a way to beat the system. And some rules that hold people back or serve as constraints for success, we might see them as more fluid, right, than other people do, right? They see it as a brick wall that you can't crash through, and we see it as like a partition that you can just push aside and get out of the way. It's a vision how we see reality.